我新聞主任建議影個相先，大家同唔同意？好嘛？就俾後邊啦，唔該。好，後邊中間唔該。咁麻煩前面普通低咗少少啊，唔該。多謝後邊影啦，唔該嚇。
前面司機麻煩烏低少少嚇，唔該。
我就走中間啦，唔該。我哋後邊未影㗎嚇。
好，我哋俾後邊影啊，唔該，後邊。
Let's give a chance to those at the back.
後邊影埋就差唔多啦，唔該晒嚇。前排司機麻煩烏低少少。
Those at the front, would you please squat down?
好差唔多啦，時間，唔該晒各位嚇。
Thank you. Chief Executive, could you please step onto the stage?
各位傳媒朋友，多謝大家。
Friends from the media, thank you for coming to the press conference of the policy address of the Chief Executive in 2022. The Chief Executive will first speak before answering questions. Please limit your answers to no more than 2 and be precise, please. Chief Executive, first of all, I would like to give you a big thank you for coming to the central government complex today. After I have delivered the policy address, I have been paying attention to press coverage of the policy address. You're most welcome to ask questions. I will be happy to explain to you about the rationale, objectives of the policy address. First of all, I would like to say something about my line of thinking when I was writing the policy address. As a special administrative region, our uniqueness is that we are established under the one country, two systems. So we have to strictly abide by the one country, two systems. That's why, at the outset, I clearly set out that we have to play into the benefits of one country, of the two systems, while we stick to the principle of one country. At the same time, we have to make sure that there is a safe and secure environment for us to have a sound foundation to move forward. And on different occasions, I have already explained that the blueprint of my policy implementation is based on the important speech made by President Xi on the 1st of July. Coupled with his statement in the report of the 20th National Congress, we know that the policy principles set out are very useful to us. The first of President Xi's 4 proposals is that we have to enhance our governance capability. That's why I emphasize that we have to do more in terms of our governance capability and efficiency. In addition, we have to enhance our competitiveness. That's why I have been stressing on competing for enterprises and talents. Our positioning has been made very clear. In the 14th five-year plan, it's clearly stated that Hong Kong is to play into its advantage by building the 8 centers. We leverage on the strength rendered to us by our country, as well as our close connection with the rest of the world. On top of developing our 8 centers, we also have a new growth engine, which is the Northern Metropolis. The Northern Metropolis is of a vast area. It transcends boundaries. We work with Guangdong Province, Shenzhen Municipal City, as well as the 9 cities in the Greater Bay Area. There is integration, which in turn gives us limitless opportunities that goes beyond boundaries. The vast area in the Northern Metropolis will give us an advantage to develop facilities, industries, and an opportunity to improve our living environment. That's why I have also spent a lot of ink and coverage on the development of the Northern Metropolis. Of course, we will address issues close to the heart of our people in terms of land supply and housing supply, as well as substandard living environment, say for example subdivided units. We have to address these issues. We also have to improve our infrastructure, say for example transportation. I have put in place various initiatives to make things happen. We also need to ensure harmony and stability. In my opinion, a sound primary healthcare system will ensure the health of the general public. We also have initiatives that show that we care and to make sure that Hong Kong is a livable city. When our youth thrives, Hong Kong thrives. So I have also spent some coverage on our initiatives to help youngsters so that they will have better opportunities to shine. Lastly, when we have obtained a full understanding of our advantage, when we know that we have expanded our room for improvement, when we have consolidated our strength, we should have the confidence to tell the good story to the rest of the world, to tell them our strengths, so that we can scale new heights. So whilst we fight against the epidemic, we also seize the opportunities available to tell a good story of Hong Kong, to let people know government officials, leaders of different sectors will lead delegations to tell good stories of Hong Kong when they go out. We also invite consulates stationed in Hong Kong to talk to them, to explain to them about our advantages, our strengths, so that when they go back to their own country, they will be able to tell their countrymen the attractiveness and allure of Hong Kong. So these are my strategies, and that is also my vision. I would like to talk about 2 salient points in the policy address. First is to compete for enterprises and talent, and land and housing, because these are 2 issues close to people's hearts. First, land and housing. In my manifesto, I mentioned that we need to improve efficiency, quality, as well as to increase the quantity. Of course, a burning issue in everyone's mind is when they are able to get a flat allocated to them. There is a major decision made in the policy address. We will not allow the waiting time for public housing to be any longer. So we will put a cap to it. I also launched the idea of light public housing. So the composite waiting time will be reduced to around 4.5 years. In about 5 years, we will produce about 30,000 public housing units. We're confident that we are able to deliver because we can see that there is available land at our disposal. We also try to identify land owned by private developers. We will talk to them to get them released for our use. Tenants will be able to stay in these light public housing units for about 5 years. And we will use MIC in its construction. So it will be no-frill design, funded and constructed by the government. Depending on the topography, I believe that we will be able to build up to about a dozen stories in each block. We have also expedited our plan to construct residential housing. So in the 5-year cycle, we will be able to churn out about 158,000 units compared to the last cycle of 150,000, of about 105,000. We have increased the volume by almost 100%. I have also mentioned in my manifesto about an expedited flat allocation scheme. We have identified about 12,000 units for early allocation. It will take about 3 to 10 months for those staying in subdivided units. They will be glad to learn that they are able to get a flat allocated to them sooner because they spend their lives living in a confined space in appalling living conditions. The express allocation scheme it can be materialized because if we do it by phases, that means we don't have to wait for the entire project to be completed before population intake. When a phase is completed, we will start population intake without waiting for the second phase. So we have about 12,000 units that will be allocated to those in need, and it will take about 3 to 10 months earlier. And we will use MIC in its construction. We have a dedicated team taking stock of the environment of public housing estate at different areas. Improvement measures may be put in place. We've also made a resolute decision to make living areas bigger, so there will be a minimum size stipulated for new flats. For subsidized sales flat, the minimum size will be about 26 square meters, and it's starting from 2026 to 27. We use that as a starting point because some of the projects have already started and it will be very difficult to make changes. For new PRH units, there is also a minimum size stipulated. We want to increase our efficiency, so we have a newly designed program for private developers to participate in the construction of subsidized housing, that is public housing. We have identified 3 lots of land for its use. We encourage private developers, if they own land, if they own available land, to use the same design to build housing for sale to the general public. In terms of private housing, we have to ensure that there is a steady supply. We have identified sufficient land to satisfy a demand of 72,000 units within 5 years. In our 10-year plan of the long-term housing strategy, we aim to produce 130,000 units. So I've just talked about housing, and I will now move on to land.
Turning now to land supply, we have to turn the primitive land to spade-ready land as soon as possible. So we'll be amending the legislation to shorten the time by as much as half, from 13 years to 7 years for larger plots. For smaller plots, we can slash by 1/3, from 6 years to 4. Also, in terms of the processing of plans, we'd like to make it quick as well. And we hope that we can approve the 80% of the plans for the first and second time. As to the resale application, we will reduce the threshold from 80% to 70% ownership for buildings of 50 to 70 years, and 60% for buildings of 70 years old or more. There are many people who are living in these run-down, dilapidated housing, and they really want to see an improvement to their living environment. We have to make sure that the owners will enjoy adequate legal protection, so we will have reinforced policy to safeguard this. We will also speed up the land supply. Now, the major problem with housing supply is that we're always trying to do the catching up. We've lost the initiative. So we have to build up the land supply so that we can have the initiative. So instead of catching up, we'll be ahead of the curve. I've also consolidated my pledge in my manifesto that we'll put infrastructure first as a priority. So I proposed 3 highways and 3 railways. The Northern Metropolis Highway, the Zhangguilou Yaotong Tunnel, and also the Sha Tin Pass, and also the Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail Link and the Zhangguilou Line Southern Extension. And all these will be taken to the LegCo for detailed discussion. There are some new measures that we will be competing enterprises and also talents in order to enhance our competitive edge. Many of the measures are really focused and thinking out of the box. We welcome global talents to come to Hong Kong, but we are taking more of an initiative in this regard. We're doing this on a number of fronts. we are setting up the Office of Attracting Strategic Enterprises headed up by the FS. We are targeting at the key industries like life, AI, data science, fintech, advanced manufacturing, new energy, and so on. When you're putting together the list, we have regard to the strategic help for Hong Kong's development and the implications that they will have on Hong Kong. We take this into account in deciding on the type of sectors that will be put on the list, and then we'll be luring them to Hong Kong. We do have tailor-made schemes to entice them to Hong Kong. All these are top-notch sectors, and because of their reputation and because of their influence and their presence in Hong Kong will certainly be of help to Hong Kong. We have to make sure that the talents before they come to Hong Kong or while they are in Hong Kong will do provide a one-stop service to make sure that there will be services available to them. So we have this talent service unit headed up by the CS to address questions and inquiries from the global talents. And we're going to be setting up dedicated teams outside of Hong Kong. Now, we do have the ETOs in other parts of the world and also in the mainland. Now, for the overseas ETOs, you might not be too familiar with their portfolio. That they do have, we do have the Invest Hong Kong colleagues in the ETO to attract global talents. This has always been there all along. We are reinforcing this particular system in the ETOs, including the ones in the mainland. We will be setting up the dedicated teams that will be getting in touch with those talents who are interested to come to Hong Kong. We will be getting in touch with them direct, so we are seizing the initiative there. And in Hong Kong, we do have the talent service unit where we are taking the initiative as well. And the FS's office is really the command center that there's the brain, figuratively, and we do have all the arms overseas in order to attract global talents to come to Hong Kong. And another initiative is the setting up of the Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited. And we have the co-investment fund of $30 billion. All these are important resources so that the investment corporation can take the initiative to strategically consider making investment in areas where that would be really good for Hong Kong, and we are making co-investment in certain areas that are important to Hong Kong. Now, with this setup, we do need the tools. So in order to attract the global talents, we do have the tools available at our disposal. The first one is the Top Talent Pass scheme. There will be a validity period of 2 years, and they don't need to have a job available for them. They can look for jobs in Hong Kong within these 2 years validity period. And Hong Kong is pretty attractive to them, and they will be able to look for jobs in Hong Kong. Now, who are the top talents? Their jobs will be $2.5 million per annum. Now, I'm sure you know what sort of people they are. For those who are earning $2.5 million per annum, they must be top-notch talents. We're also expanding our radar for universities, the top 100 universities, as long as they have working experience. We will be attracting them to Hong Kong. For those who graduated from these 100 top universities, they must be of high caliber. So we have taken into account the list of the 100 top universities, and there are 160 or so universities that measure up to the requirements. For those who hold down a job elsewhere, we would like to attract them to Hong Kong. We don't put a limit on the number because we believe that these top university graduates, we have to seek to attract them to Hong Kong. They are talents that lured by other parts of the world as well. Now, for those who don't have any working experience or who graduated from top 100 university, we have a cap of 100 per year.
For any of these talent entrance scheme, we will conduct a review after 1 year. We have a number of current talent admissions schemes. We have one that is a general employment policy, and the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. They are talents that earns over 2 million Hong Kong dollars. Employers don't have to try to recruit or fill the vacancy locally before they apply under the scheme. We try to attract these talents to come to Hong Kong to make contribution. We have suspended the annual quota of the quality migrant admission scheme. We have heard voices saying that we have not exhausted the quota under this scheme. But at the same time, there are eligible candidates who are put off because of this quota. That's why I will suspend the annual quota under the Quality Migrant Admission Scheme for 2 years. We will conduct an annual review. We also relax the immigration arrangements for non-local graduates. Well, we will extend the limit of stay from 1 year to 2 years to make it more flexible. In terms of our technology talent admission scheme, there is the requirement that tech companies operating at Cyberport or Science Park if they are to recruit overseas talents, they will have to, at the same time, employ local employees. But we are aware that these companies may not be able to employ local employees successfully. So the effectiveness of this scheme is not ideal, and we are aware that companies all over the world are trying to employ tech talents. So we lift this requirement to give us more flexibility. We will also extend the limit of stay to 3 years, and we will issue a maximum employment visa of 3 years. There are also some people who come to work to Hong Kong before they become permanent residents. And when they come to work in Hong Kong, once they become Hong Kong permanent residents, they will be able to get a refund of additional stamp duty paid for property purchase in Hong Kong. But these are the salient points, and I would be happy to take questions. Next, the floor is open for questions. I ask reporters to use the microphone we give you. Identify your media outlet and limit your questions to no more than 2. There are quite a number of reporters, so I ask you to be concise. First, the gentleman at the front in the middle. I'm from CCTV. This is your maiden policy address. Which are the main policies that would facilitate integration into national development? The 20th National Congress is in progress. What are the key points in your policy address that echo the points made by President Xi? Well, you talk about initiatives of competing for talents and enterprises. What expectations do you have of these initiatives? I have at different parts of my policy address talk about integration into national development. In paragraph 13, I have made it very clear that we will make good use of existing cooperation and collaboration mechanisms, and we will also make use of the River Loop, Nansha, Shenzhen, and all the cooperating mechanisms. So these are specifics that are set out in the policy address. And I also mentioned about a steering committee, a steering group on integration into national development. It is led by me and co-chaired by 3 department secretaries. Well, for major directions, it is the integration and dovetailing measures with those under the 14th Five-Year Plan. And on top of that, we have to enhance the flow of information, flow of talent, and flow of funds. And the third area is to strengthen our collaboration and cooperation mechanism. Fourthly, we will promote cooperation between talents, between manpower, professional services in areas of the Greater Bay Area. So I talk about a head of the steering group with 3 assistant heads. Well, in terms of the 14th Five-Year Plan and the Greater Bay Area, there is a huge amount of work to be done, and there are also plenty of opportunities. So we do need secretaries as well as myself to work on it. When we set up this steering group, we will be able to maximize our outcome. These secretaries will be able to tap into their own expertise. I also mentioned that there will be regular briefing sessions of national policies. This will enhance our understanding of national policies and the part we can play. We talk about the development of the 8 centers in the policy address, and these 8 centers is a major direction in the integration into the national development, because there is clear positioning mentioned in the national policy. And in the 20th National Congress, there is a statement saying that support will be given to help Hong Kong to develop economically and to help improve people's livelihood. I have used the important speech of President Xi on the 1st of July as a direction of my policy address. This echoes the spirit of the 20th National Congress. You talk about effectiveness of our efforts to compete for talents. I am indeed confident. We were not as aggressive in the past. But still, there were plenty of talents that have chosen to come to Hong Kong. Putting aside what happened after 2019, when things were normal before 2019, we enjoy a very competitive environment, and we had a lot of advantage in attracting talents from all over the world. We ranked first in a number of areas. We had an advantage. But now, for whatever reason, maybe in the form of the epidemic, we have had our stability restored, and we are moving towards prosperity. There are things that we have not tried. Say, for example, the Investment Corporation Limited, which has not been done before. We have a very active supporting policies for industries. We have initiatives of different levels targeting different areas, say, for example, enterprises and talents, in order to maximize the effectiveness. If we have talent, it will help our competitiveness. You asked how confident I am. I've told you that Hong Kong has been enjoying an advantage. Hong Kong is an attractive place. But now we have new tools at our disposal. Say, for example, we have introduced some flexibilities. You don't need to have to first find a job before you come to Hong Kong. We have also cast our net wider to attract top talents. We also have different initiatives. Some of them are tailor-made to suit our needs, so I am confident. I have set a target that we will be able to attract 35,000 top-notch talents every year to come to Hong Kong. I do believe that we will be able to attract more if we achieve more development in different areas.
Lady over there, please. Mr. Chief Executive, TVB. Now, the Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited, in your policy address, basically, you're talking about merging the capital. TMHK in Singapore has been around for more than 40 years, and they are amassing all these, putting together all these capital and making investment. How much are we going to make investment? Are we going to incubate some unicorns, and then we don't have to plow in the taxpayers' money, and it will be self-sustaining? Also, now integrating into the mainland, you have the steering group and also steering committee on Northern Metropolis and other offices. That you have a proliferation of all these committees. Will that be a duplication of the work? The policy address talks about telling a good stories about Hong Kong. There are 1,000 overseas leaders to come to Hong Kong. We asked the FSTB and others. They don't know much about it. Now, if this is in the hands of the top secretary, they don't know much about it. Now, we are setting up this Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited, and this is the first step. As to the future development, it will depend on what positive experience we have accumulated, and we can also take into account the experience of other parts of the world. And we can certainly make this cooperation more conducive to Hong Kong's development. The idea is that in the SAR government, we have the policy on the industries, different sectors. We are trying to develop the high-end, high-value added sectors for Hong Kong. So we do have all these institutional setup. We have all these tools to lure talents. We still need to fill in the blank, which will be conducive to the overall development of Hong Kong. In every place, they do have their own process of development. Now, for this investment corporation, the purpose is to compete for talents and compete for enterprises. Is against this background that this is set up. We have all these measures at our disposal, and with this investment corporation, I mean, they go hand in hand. There are some enterprises that would attract more investment in them. And if the government invests in them, there would be better complementarity. And we will be treading carefully about the kind of investment that we made. We're going to have a board which is composed of experienced talents. Of course, the initiative lies with the government. It is the Financial Secretary that will be spearheading this. We have to make sure that all our decisions will be beneficial to Hong Kong. We said that we're going to have a consultative committee, and that committee will let us know what enterprises would be best for Hong Kong, and their presence in Hong Kong will also bring in a lot of talents. And I mean, if people become aware that these enterprises are setting up their presence in Hong Kong, it would have really good publicity. So we're having the overall interest in Hong Kong uppermost in our mind. This is not intended to make profits. Now, this is to support the long-term development of Hong Kong. So as to the future direction of its development, we'll let it run for some time before we see how we take it further. We've also seen that in other parts of the world, they also have this institutional setup. In Chapter 3, I've also mentioned that we are enhancing the level of governance. And in President Xi's July 1st speech, and this is what he said, we have to improve the governance, so we have to enhance the governance system. We may have the best talents, but if we don't have the institution, if we don't have this set up, it would be hard for us to bring things to fruition. So the governance system, if it is good for Hong Kong, will be set up. Now, your point is also important. With the governance set up, we also need to have the governance capability and governance efficiency. Any element on its own will not be able to achieve any particular tangible result. So we have to make sure that there will be leadership intervention. We have to play the leading role at the very beginning, and we do need the team spirit. In this kind of system, I have set up different KPIs. Now, nothing on its own will be good enough. We cannot just talk about the governance systems without talking about the governance capability and governance efficiency. So we have all these different elements which are intertwined. We hope that they will be producing tangible results. We have 110 KPIs in the policy address. Each bureau and each department would also have their own KPIs as well. Next, please. The gentleman in blue, please.
From South China Morning Post. I have two questions for you. The first one is concerns the co-investment fund that you mentioned in paragraph 26. You said you want to take 30 billion from the future fund to set up a co-investment fund. Can you elaborate on what kind of companies is it hoping to attract? Would it focus on strategic tech companies, or would you also target other companies like finance, trade, and shipping industries? Would the Hong Kong Monetary Authority be investing in this co-investment fund as well. Question number 2 concerns your talent initiatives. In paragraph 29, you announced stamp duty incentive and the top talent pass scheme to attract talents. But the top talent pass scheme is very similar to the ones in countries like Singapore. So is the team just copying from similar foreign schemes, or did you consider making it a scheme that is even more ambitious than our rivals? When the mainland border is still closed, how effective are these measures compared with the ones in Singapore? Thank you.
Okay, the co-investment fund is set up so as to, first of all, attract companies to come, and also will help company to come, because if the Hong Kong government invests in it, then it will be much easier for that company to also get investment from the private sector. But what are the companies that will be selected? Of course, it will be examined thoroughly and carefully by the board and also a committee which comprises professionals and experts in this area. The government will be in charge. We will take the lead. The financial secretary will be the leader of the company. Of course, at the early stage, I would envisage that some officials from the Hong Kong MA may assist in the running of this company. How in the long run it will be run, then I would let it run for a while so that it will develop itself. But the main purpose of co-investment is not looking for financial return. That's investment only. So it's not the financial return that we want from the investment. It's more how that investment can help develop Hong Kong's capabilities, attractiveness, and potentials. Attracting the right companies to come to Hong Kong, which people will know, wow, great, this company, well known to so many people, of such potential, they also come to Hong Kong. So that will increase people's confidence in Hong Kong, and also to prove the attractiveness of Hong Kong as a place for businesses to thrive. That's the purpose of the co-investment fund. In the long run, of course, we want it to develop to an even bigger scale. But one important thing is, while we will be very focused on tech companies, we will also be looking at companies which have strategic development value for Hong Kong. As I have explained to you, if this is a company which, despite not involved in tech businesses, but by his location in Hong Kong, people will first of all will find it a very strong signal, strong message that Hong Kong is the place for big businesses. We want to create jobs. We want to create opportunities. So that's the main purpose. So the scope will be cast wide. It's not just the tech, but then tech companies are, of course, one of the focus areas. And for the talent attraction schemes, I think all places, they have designed schemes that will fit their own circumstances and will also be an attractive scheme. I do the same as any other place tries to do. So I look around all the different places, and I also look at our own situation. And I want to extend my net to those I believe are well sought after talents around the world. That is why I pick the top 100 universities, because they are well sought after around the world, particularly those who are working. For those who graduate from these very famous and successful universities, earning a good salary, attracting them to come to Hong Kong, of course, will be a big asset which, if develops in the critical mass, will create a very strong attractiveness and impetus for Hong Kong to develop. So I designed the scheme according to what I think will be best for Hong Kong. And I actually can tell you that it is quite open and wide scheme, because I really want to attract them within the shortest period of time so that we can pick up our competitiveness strongly. That is why I make this scheme a 2-year scheme to be reviewed further. And it will be reviewed every year so that we can assess whether we should make it even wider, even more open, or have adjustment. You have mentioned the quarantine arrangement of Hong Kong and also our connectivity with the mainland. Let's look at it this way. Our connectivity with the world is a long-term thing. It's both short-term and long-term. In the short term, of course, I have to deal with it in accordance with the strategy I've explained times and again. That I will do it progressively. The direction is clear to allow maximum freedom and maximum possibility for activities. The direction is clear, but I have to do it progressively because this is the Hong Kong situation. But let's face it, we're talking about competitiveness not just in the short run, but in the long run. I'm talking about a 2-year scheme. And I'm very confident that, well, there will be a lot of connectivity, much more than the present time. So I will not restrict myself to anything that always have to be bothered by the quarantine requirement. So I will just plan all the strategy so as to allow maximum attractiveness for talents to come to Hong Kong, regardless of the issues that you have raised. And that is the only way we can plan for a successful talent attractive scheme.
下一位提問，右手邊前排嘅男記者。
Gentleman in black. I'm from Hong Kong Economic Times. Well, the market was quite expectant about relaxations or a lifting of a certain demand-side management measures, but we now see the market disappointed. So what is your take on the future trend? Will you withdraw some of these cooling measures? And in relation to the office for attracting strategy enterprises, well, you have your initiatives, but in Singapore, they have tax concessions to attract talents and enterprises. What do you think Hong Kong's advantage lies compared to that of Singapore? We have a list to attract enterprises. We have certain initiatives that are tailor-made, that include tax arrangements, land, schooling, and housing arrangements. These measures are bespoke for individual enterprises, taking into account their need and the situation in Hong Kong. People like to compare, but if we only look at deficiencies, that's fine, because that's a way for us to improve. But we should not belittle ourselves. We have our advantage. We have our uniqueness. We will design measures to suit our situation. We had advantages, like I said, before 2019, before the epidemic and before the black-clad violence, we were well-renowned for our strengths and advantages. I think that it is in our blood. It is in our DNA. With this, with the DNA in place, all we need is an opportunity. So our supporting facilities will strengthen our attractiveness. I'm aware of the expectations of certain quarters in the community of the policy address. When I formulate policies, I take into account, as a whole, measures that are of concern to the general public, and I launch suitable measures in a timely manner. For land and housing, I have already outlined measures to ensure stable supply, to help people get on the property ladder. We will keep in view market changes. Hong Kong is an externally oriented market. External factors will affect us. On top of that, there are also internal factors in the form of anti-epidemic measures and various arrangements. We are reviving slowly. We hear more inquiries about flights. We are aware that there are more flights. So I design measures that will best suit Hong Kong's situation.
Lady in Stripes, cable TV. You mentioned the loss of 140,000 people in the labor force, and there are measures to relax the situation, but there are not that many measures to retain the local workforce. Now, what measures are there to retain the local workforce? And also the refund of the extra stamp duty for the overseas talents. Would that push the property prices higher and at least make it more difficult for people to get on the housing ladder? And also the Kao Yi Chau artificial island, will the scale be of similar magnitude to that proposed by the previous administration? Is it going to be called the Lantau Tomorrow Vision as well? Right, let me take the questions in the reverse order. The Lantau Tomorrow project, I am supportive of this, and this will go ahead. So we are explaining this. We will be taking the project to the Legislative Council regarding the reclamation for the Kao Yi Chau artificial island. There will be explanation there. We will be proceeding according to the same ideas. As to the extra stamp duty, the rationale is that we allow the eligible tenants from outside of Hong Kong to apply for a refund when they become permanent Hong Kong residents. So if a tenant would like to stay in Hong Kong, would like to give renter assistance to him or her, so when permanent residency is acquired, we allow application for a refund of the stamp duty. We don't really want to see any speculation arising from that. It would take many years of saving up for a household to be able to get on the housing ladder, so I have struck a balance there. While I like to attract talents to Hong Kong, while at the same time I don't really want to see any speculative activities there. If someone wants to be a permanent resident, he should be entitled to what a permanent resident should be entitled to, and that's only reasonable. For local talents, I also attach importance to that. In my policy address, I've already said that we will keep and train up the local talents. Now, if you turn to the pages on education, we emphasize for tertiary education, we would like the local people to have the right education. We're also promoting the vocational and professional education to retain the talents. We have increased the number of courses, we have increased the subsidies. We have improved the QF, so people, depending on their circumstances, would be able to seek their pursuit in Hong Kong and pursue their dreams in Hong Kong. So these are the measures that show that we attach importance to the training and retention of local talents. In particular, the retraining measures. We are retraining some of the workforce, and all these are part of our education programs. In particular, subsidies for the VPET education. We have increased the subsidies for degree and non-degree programs. All these are the measures that in this regard. Next, please. Lady in green jacket, please. I'm from Shenzhen TV. You mentioned integrating into the national development of the mainland. You are setting up this steering group. I'd like to find out a little bit about the GBA. What particular objective do you have for the GBA development? Now, in terms of cooperation between Shenzhen and Hong Kong, how are you going to enhance or strengthen the cooperation? First of all, regarding the GBA development, there are several levels. First one is the working level. Since I've taken office, I am really grateful to the leadership of Guangdong Province and Shenzhen for setting up a number of platforms for us to take forward the construction work of the GBA. The second level is the leadership level. Therefore, I propose the setting up of the steering group on the integration into national development. This is intended to be integrated with the mainland development, and there will be connection at the leadership level. And this is also of crucial importance. A lot of the construction in the GBA is really innovative ideas. And we do need to have high-level agreement. And this steering group will certainly enhance the effectiveness and the efficiency of the process. So we have the steering group, and this is result-oriented, and I'm sure that there will be results to show for it. Also, together with Shenzhen, we have a lot of connections in many different areas. And it is important for us to have connection in different spheres. And we do have the same objectives in many different spheres. And we are focusing our attention on these. The first one is the innovation and technology. We have the I&T park in the Loop area. We do have put ample room for cooperation. We can take advantage of these I&T park as the demonstration area. We're going to have the people flow, capital flow, and so on. We can develop a lot of initiatives. These may be new initiatives, but they are full of challenges, and we have to have the high-level system, high-level connection to take the initiatives forward. And we are liaising with the Shenzhen authorities, and the high-level connection is going to be very important. And Tianhai in Shenzhen and Nansha in Guangdong, we have different development plans. We have the common objectives, and with the top-level leadership, we can build up a very good connection system there. And I'm sure that will enhance the effectiveness of the whole program.
右手
Next, the one on the right, on the far right.
From TMHK. My first question is about retaining talent. Could you explain further how the authorities will try to retain talent in Hong Kong, as in preventing them from going overseas? And you also talked about attracting talents from overseas. How soon do you think we can see results as a result of the policies? And my second question is about the public housing. Do you think the target to reduce the waiting time for a public flat to 4.5 years from 6 is ambitious or realistic? Has the government found suitable plots of land to build the 30,000 units of light public housing in the next 5 years? Thank you.
I'll answer the second question first. It is ambitious, but it is realistic. In fact, I think if you go through the policy address document in detail, there are quite a number of ambitious plans. But that is what I really want to achieve for the people of Hong Kong within these 5 years. So it is challenging, but I have trust in the united team that I have in the government, plus the very strong support by the civil servants, that will be able to deliver. We are committed to this target, which I think may not be something that you will easily see previously, but this is something we want to make happen. And I thank my team for coming with realistic and practical solution to address people's crying concern for reducing having to wait for 6 years for a public housing flat. So I thank my team, but we believe that we can do it because we have already identified the government size for this 30,000 light public housing. We will be using MIC, and also we will be doing the building ourselves. So we have control of every part of the scheme. And also, we will be approaching private developers to see whether they also will have size to lend us. If the support by the private sector comes strongly, then perhaps we can build more. But at the present moment, we are confident that there are already sufficient size that can come into this plan. The second thing about talents, first of all, we have mentioned about people going to other places from Hong Kong. This happened every now and then in the history of Hong Kong. People leave for their own reasons, but provided we make Hong Kong an attractive place and we make Hong Kong be a place where people, when they look at it, they will think, this is the place, I will come, or I will come back. That is my mission. So what I intend to do is create a Hong Kong future in this 5 years in which people can realize their business dreams, their education dreams, and their development plans. That is what I'm trying to do. And I know the goals are high, but well, I would progress towards that goal. And you look at the policy address, we are making Hong Kong a better place to live with better health care, with taking better care of the elderly needs. We are creating a living environment that will come with not just quantity of houses, but quality of living environment. We are making Hong Kong a place where people can be successful in their business ventures. We are making Hong Kong a place which will be known to other parts of the world that this is the place where they can set up their companies and be prosperous. So that is what I'm trying to do to make Hong Kong an attractive place. I have said that we have already very strong DNAs as Hong Kong itself because of its geographical position, because of our population, because of our education, our workforce, of the strength of the things that we have built over the years, which make Hong Kong an international financial center, shipping, trade, and East meets West attractive place. And we are making it an IT hub. So there are so many things that we can add in addition to the DNA, which is already very strongly attractive. So I believe by doing all this, and one important thing is we collectively work together, it will make things happen faster and make the voices louder and make the result easier to achieve. So it's not just the government. I really hope that all Hong Kong people can take part. That is why I advocate for telling the good Hong Kong story, the true stories, for people to know that this is the place that they should come, that they should also come back, and this is the place where they will make their dreams come true.
下一位提問，
Next question. The one on the left at the front, the gentleman in black. I'm from News. I have 2 questions. First, you said in the policy address that there will be the Chief Executive's policy units set up. What will be the competition? What is the selection criteria? Is the red team being implemented? And 110 KPI, what are the major ones? What are the reward or punishment system for failing or achieving these KPIs? And in relation to mega event, for the caring team, what is the KPI? Their function, is it a duplication of the district council? Will they replace the role of the district council? I think that's all. First, I would answer about the Chief Executive's policy unit. It will be set up within this year. I have a list. I would like the policy unit to cover people from 3 areas. People who feel the pulse of Hong Kong sentiment. Someone who is familiar with Hong Kong, someone who knows what Hong Kong needs. Secondly, they will be people who understand national policies and the opportunities given to us by our country because we are closely connected with our motherland. So we need to know what the national policies are so that Hong Kong will be put on a path, the right path that would benefit from these policies and at the same time contribute to the national development. We also need people with an international horizon. The international community is changing rapidly. We're at the point of time where great changes are around the corner. We need someone who is able to analyze the situation, appreciate opportunities and threats. When the policy unit is set up, I will introduce my team to you. For the red team, it's something that I have introduced when I assumed office. The nature of the red team is to be critical of government policy. It also plays a very important role. It is an agent of change. They have an all-round critical thinking mindset, and they will bring about cultural change. We always aim to do better, and that's where the red team will come in. I have set a lot of indicators. Some are qualitative, some are quantitative. And I've explained many times about the functions of these indicators. They can be used to gauge effectiveness and progress. When we are alive to the situation, we'll be able to make timely changes. Say, for example, change of pace when it's needed. Say, we need to change the law, we need to change the procedure, we need to change funding allocation, resources allocation. We can make changes by making use of these indicators. The KPI I value most are those in housing and land. In particular, the light public housing. I attach a lot of importance to it. We'll have to make sure that these indicators are achieved. And for land supply, we have set targets. Where legislative amendment is required, we will move towards the goal. And in terms of the district council, as I said in the policy address, I have tasked the two bureaus, that is the Constitutional Mainland Affairs Bureau as well as the Home Affairs and Youth Bureau. For our district services and community caring teams, they are related in one form or another to district administration. Whatever the district administration is, the caring team will only perform their duties relating to serving the community. So whatever the structure the district administration is, I don't think it has much to do with the caring team. We will first set up the teams in two districts so that we will get a better idea of the operations before we launch it to the rest of the territory.
Just a reminder that please restrict yourself to 2 questions and make it brief. A lady at the back in white, please. The gentleman in white, please. Mingpao Daily. 2 questions. In terms of housing, you're going to have the light public housing. Aren't you concerned that this is in fact regularizing the transitional housing? Or is this light public housing be time limited? And for the waiting time, KPI, if this cannot be achieved, would there be any accountability? And for young people, there are some young people who were arrested for flouting the law and in terms of law and actual practices, will you be moving into the direction of reconciliation? Now, for this light public housing, this is a special measure. We have explained this in the policy address. We identified land for the production of public housing. We have identified enough land for the horizon of 10 years. We have exceeded the required land supply. So in 10 years' time, we should be able to meet the projected demand in a long-term housing strategy. The question lies with the fact that the supply is available in an uneven manner. So the vast majority of them will be available at the second half. So we have the innovative idea. I thank my colleagues for that. That this light public housing scheme is in fact to fill this particular gap. So people don't have to be kept waiting. We're not doing anything about this uneven availability. So we have this new idea in making available more housing. Rather than increasing the supply, we are putting forward this light public housing scheme of 30,000 units. And we are advancing the production, and we have increased by 50% compared with the previous cycle. And this is down to everybody's effort. The long-term housing strategy has the target. We have identified land availability which exceeds the target. So in the coming 10 years, we should have sufficient supply to accommodate people. And the other thing is we'd like people to have more decent living environment with bigger size. And in these 5 years, we would like to fill this gap in order to meet the demand arising from people who are waiting at the moment. So whether it is the transitional housing or the light public housing, we are trying to meet the keen demand from the members of the public. And this is a groundbreaking initiative. We are confident that we should be able to achieve that. Our KPI has made it very clear that in 2 years' time, we will be able to have the tangible result. I said that if the pace is inconsistent with our target, we have to find out about it. I mean, the one who should bear the ultimate responsibility should be the chief executive. We stand united in our team that this groundbreaking idea owes a lot to the civil service colleagues and also the bureau chiefs. And they are really committed to this, and they conceive these ideas in a responsible manner, and we'd like to see this become a success in meeting the demand. Now, for the law-breaking young people, they have to bear the legal consequences, and after they are done with the consequences, we will help them to turn over a new leaf and become a useful member of society. In his important speech on July 1st, the presidency emphasized that to maintain a harmonious and stable society, we need to love our home, and we need to abide by the laws of Hong Kong and the Basic Law. And this is an important force of building up Hong Kong. So we share the common objective there. Anyone who wants to make contribution to this place we call home, and anybody who abides by the laws and the Basic Law, we welcome them to be part of this force in Hong Kong to build up our home. We really want to promote a love for the country and Hong Kong, and we would like to build up this core value in Hong Kong. It's only with this common value that we will see the common objective. We will work hard on this. In the interest of time, let's make it the last question. Let's take an English question. English question, please. Yes, the one at the back in white, please.
Question from CNA. While the new light public housing is proposed, we don't see any solutions specifically tackled on the subdivided flat in this year's policy address. While Xi Jinping has put forward that Hong Kong people should live in a better condition, do you have a timetable for the eradication of subdivided flat, or this is not on your list? Thank you.
You have to, first of all, understand the intention and purpose of the light public housing. It is to address the crying need of a lot of people who are living in unfavorable conditions, such as subdivided flats. The provision of this light public housing will directly address people who are living in subdivided flats. Of course, the people who are qualified to move into this light public housing, as the policy address has explained, are people who are waiting already in the queue for public housing, and for those who have waited for 3 years or more. So they are the first persons to be benefited from this light public housing. But if there is sufficient supply of housing, affordable rental prices, then a lot of people will not have to live in subdivided flats. So to answer to the problem of subdivided flats, the first thing that we must do is to provide many, many more houses so that these people have a chance to move in. That's the first thing. The second thing is, some people who are living in subdivided flats are not people who are in any way underprivileged. There are some actually who make use of subdivided flats because that flat may be nearer to his place of work. So there may be some people who are not qualified to move into a public rental house. They prefer living in a location which is close to their working place, or because they have other needs. So the first step to deal with subdivided flats is to first of all ensure people who don't want to live in these subdivided flats, they get a chance to move out to houses which they find comfortable. That is what I'm doing now. This is the critical need. In the long run, when we have addressed all these crying needs of people in the long queue, then we may look at the subdivided flats holistically again to see how can we improve the whole thing. Because there will definitely be some people who have chosen to live in a particular flat because of his personal needs, such as I have explained, close to the working place or other reasons. So it's not a simple thing of just the living condition may not be as desirable as we wish they can have. Is also a practical need issue.
帶埋今日最後一位嘅提問嘅。
Last question of today, the one on the right, second row, the lady in blue. On Phoenix TV, 2 questions. First, in relation to President Xi's report in the 20th National Congress, he talked about using modernization to enable progress. Well, what do you think about that? The second question is that there are 79 pages in the policy address. It's different from the previous one, which is 186 pages. So why? How many of these initiatives do you think will be implemented? Are there any of the initiatives that would be forgotten and put on the back burner? Our country will take on a new chapter in its journey towards modernization. I feel encouraged, and I strongly support that. There are relevant policies in the policy address to dovetail this. First, we have our innovation and technology. There is clear positioning in the 14th five-year plan of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is to develop the 8 centers. So there are plenty of initiatives and objectives and targets set in the policy address. That's the first. Secondly, modernized development is not just is a progress. Hong Kong enjoys an advantage in research and development. We're strong not just in R&D, we are also strong in capitalization as well as commercialization of these R&D outcomes. That's how we can contribute towards the national development in terms of modernization. I mentioned about the one zone, 2 parks in the River Loop and the cooperation with Shenzhen Municipal City. We can play into our potential in terms of innovation and technology. This will be our key area. We have limitless opportunities. We need to make the most of our key area and to maximize what we can achieve. If you look at other parts of the policy address, you see that in initiatives to enhance our competitiveness. I have given full consideration of what President Xi said. He talked about 4 musts and 4 proposals in the important speech on the 1st of July. I have, in my opening remark, elaborated on my rationale. I have also covered Hong Kong's advantage, that is, Hong Kong's advantage of strong support from motherland and close connection with the world. We are a special administrative region. We can contribute towards the rejuvenation of our nation. We will do our best in different areas to play into our potential. That's the end of the press conference. Thank you.